Yes, sir.
Yeah, good evening. This evening we're going to speak on note of protest. And there is this ambiguity of note of protest, letter of protest, and C protest as well. But before I go in, can anybody like give me a brief understanding of what they understand by that? Beatrice, you want to try? Have you heard of note of protest?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I really don't know much about it.
That's good. You're going to be knowing more about it this evening because I think that's one of the sweetest things I like to do when I was an officer on the vessel, issue a note of protest in case of anything. Omar, have you heard about it or have you used the note of protest?
Of course, sir.
I mean, anyway, the way you're smiling, you've used that, you've been giving them.
Okay, I believe note of protest or letter of protest is a letter you issue when something happens so that you clear up your side in case for future references.
Yeah, indemnifying yourself.
Yes.
Indemnifying yourself and making the party concerned taking responsibility as well. Yes. But we'll go into it now because people keep wondering why is it really so important, especially in exams. I think even while I was in my OOW, it was one of my exams as well. And when I became a master and this came on me, I really had to really do it, and I'm glad people like Umar already have knowledge about it. So a letter of protest, like I said, it's a formal declaration, just like me and Umar described, where a person expresses, a personal objection or disapproval of the act. And it might be a written statement, it might be made by the notary or request of order of a bill or a note that describes bill of note or, on a certain day where something has gone on. So for instance, a Steve door means people, when you get to the port, the guys who come on board in trying to assist you in picking up something or picking cargoes or whatever, and it comes on board and it tries and it damages something. Maybe for some instance, while moving a large box, damage a door there. You have a right also to issue protest for a Steve door damaging your ship or whatever. Also, it can also be STS, and STS might happen. And maybe you are the standby vessel or you're even the one alongside him. And boom, there is kind of, a maneuvering that was not properly done well. Immediately the next thing, it's a disapproval act, something you are not happy with, and you must send a letter of protest. And in this slide or in this lecture today, we're going to be discussing why this letter of protest or this note of protest is really, important as well. So just like that letter of protest, now in shipping, it's like a widespread practice of, using letter of protest to record discrepancies. So for instance, when I mean record discrepancies, I've been working on tankers and then, oh, you gave me 30,000. No, I gave you 33,000. And then boom, we have a discrepancy between them. Or it might even be between 33,000. When I mean 33,000, sorry, I was referring to oil products, fuel, diesel, or anything. But also it can be even dry products. It can be bulk product as well. But I remember one of my sweetest protests was issuing it down to the port right there in while I was in Nigeria as well. And that was because we took fuel and there was so much water in it. No, we didn't give you water. No, this was what we received. And then this letter of protest has now been a way that indemnifies me myself from taking any responsibility from any loss that will occur due to the damage or the discrepancy or the loss of cargo or damage to cargo or even damage to the ship or marine environment that has happened. That is why I keep saying the letter of protest is really very important, because examiners try to test our knowledge and say, why do you need to bother yourself about, a letter of protest? And this protest can only be made by the master. A letter of protest can be made by the master and can be made against the chatterer or the consignee of goods for failing to load, or unload a vessel. So meaning, okay, I bring my vessel, a container vessel, all the way down to an airport, and we're supposed to be departing straight back to Singapore. And for some reason, on airports, we've not even started uploading. I have the right, of course, to even issue a letter of protest, especially when the fault is really not from mine. But also, they can also issue a letter of protest when the fault is not from us. But that has already indemnified us to say, no, I'm not the one at fault here, but these guys are the one at fault in this. So in case of any delay, then on the other hand, we might say that it can be even issued against the master itself, and that's as per merchant navy. So increase against the master for not proceeding to sea with due dispatch or not signing a bill of lading. In one of our lectures, I think we had Captain Etin speaking to us on bill of lading. And that's also, for not signing a bill of lading, yes, we can also be issued a letter of protest. And like I said, it's more about in the final. So like let's have a conversation right now. Just before I start revealing the slide, just give me one reason, starting from Oman, one reason why you will say, at this one, I'm issuing a letter of protest.
Shortage of cargo.
Shortage of cargo. Who are you issuing the shortage of cargo? Where to where? Who are you issuing the letter of protest to?
From ship to wherever you are receiving the cargo from. If it is SPS to the mothership, if it is loading issue to the jetty side.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Beatrice, there's no much time. Beatrice, give me one reason why you, as the master, you would like to issue a letter of protest.
Okay, I can issue a letter of protest as a result of a damage to my vessel from another vessel due to wrong maneuvering.
Damage to your vessel from another vessel. You want to give us example of why there was a damage?
Okay, I may be moored, and let's say another vessel may be passing by, or
yeah, that's correct. That's correct. It might be due to bad maneuvering. It might be just anyone, as long as it's something that can indemnify you and keep you appraised as well. Lima November LM. Can you give me one reason, please, for that you would like to issue a letter of protest as a master that you are?
Okay, I can issue a letter of protest if I'm going for an STS operation and I arrived my location, maybe waiting for the mother vessel. So I can issue a letter of protest. Okay, this is my arrival time. I'm ready, but mother vessel is not ready to for the operation to commence, just to protect myself.
Yeah, that is really a very nice and perfect example, because there will be delays. So who bears the cost of these delays, and who takes the responsibility from the loss that comes from this delay? So yeah, that is one letter of protest. I always remember I had that at the palm of my hand when I was a second officer, because coming down and having such delays is not what you said you want to put as a master. Thank you very much, Lima November. November Alpha Lima, you want to give us one reason for issuing a letter of protest? And Kelvin, I'm coming to you. Okay, I think it's still muted. Kelvin, are you there? You can give us one reason for issuing a letter of protest, please. Yeah, I think it's not everybody that can unmute this night. But I think the four examples were really perfect examples. Sorry, the three examples. So just like Naval November said, yeah, delays stroke incidents during betting and unbetting. You know, these delays at loading, at discharge, usually delays due to, you know, waiting on custom for immigration clearance, waiting on pilots, dogs, waiting on order to start loading, discharging, or waiting for another ship to finish, or waiting for even daylight. Yeah, and then vessel overloaded or short loaded. According to the charter party, you can issue a letter of protest straight down to the charter party. Then if there is a difference in the bill of lading that you brought and then the ship figure as a quantity, you can issue a letter of protest. And the bill of lading does not contain charter party dates, name, discharge ports, or cargo quantity. Man, that is to say, even in your bill of lading, we need to be very careful as well to make sure, yes, that the bill of lading we have all the content details that we need in it. Then slow loading at the request of terminal. To be honest, yeah, when you are pumping at a rate that is very, very lower, I don't know when I'm going to leave. So this is a letter of protest, just indemnifying me that, see, I'm not the one that caused it, but this is your rate at so time, and this is the quantity that we've received due to this rate that you've been sending. And I think there are many more reasons. I mean, many more, because Steve does coming just like, you know, destruction and different reasons why we can always issue a letter of protest. But like a letter of protest, it's a binding letter. It's not just a letter. It's a binding letter that is in a court of law that is used to really indemnify you and keep you and your vessel owner from taking any responsibility from any loss. That's the answer, and that's what we normally issue. I mean, we tell examiners. But also, letter of protest now is one. Now we have the sea protest. Yeah, it looks kind of the same, but before I go into it, I mean, it's right there. Does anybody understand the meaning between a letter of protest and a sea protest? Anyone want to try? Omar.
Okay, so I think letter of protest is gotten from operations, like when you carry out operation, and then sea protest is within your own ship. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, you're making sense. It's just you're not confident about it. So let's be confident about it.
I should go through again?
Yeah.
Okay, I said I believe letter of protest involves when you have operations and then you have a third party. But sea protest is issued within your ship to give reason that, okay, something happened and that is why you arrive late or something.
Yeah, and that's yeah, that's correct, and it still has its own reservations about it, and I'm going to go through it this evening for us. Because the letter of protest, the way we write also the letter of protest and the purpose of the letter of protest is always different from the sea protest, which is which we can say the note of protest as well. It's always also different, and the manner at which it's being used is different. But let's come down in maritime law, like we said. Now the sea protest now is a notarized statement obtained after a ship enter port after like a rough voyage. So its purpose is like what is to protect the ship charterer owner from liability of damage to the cargo, to the ship, and to the other ships in a collision. So if we note something here, a letter of protest can be issued straight away. But a sea protest, which is also a note of protest, is a notarized one. And when I mean notarized, it has to be notarized legally. Are we understanding? So in letter of protest, I can write letter of protest, I put my ship stamp, and that does the work as well. So if it is known or is suspected that such damage has occurred, the captain can make a sworn protest in a common form. So a letter of protest can be, in a I think those days I used to have it in a company form, in a company format as well. But now this is now in a common form and at the office of notary public or consul. Are we following? So this is now a little more formal one, which you cannot issue straight away, but you can issue, you must, like we will still go down to the slide and we will see that it should be issued immediately as soon as you get to the port. And if the full extent of any damage caused only becomes apparent while and after the cargo is being unloaded, the captain may return to the office of the notary public to extend his protest, and that's what they call extend of protest. And if a sea protest is not made, the owner of the charterer may be liable for the damage caused and unable to produce, the ship log. So when you issue a letter of protest, that's at the sea, or it might be immediately, or it might even be on the vessel, just write immediately. But when you issue a note of protest or a sea protest, it's something we all need to take down to the. It has to be notarized, as we have seen it there, and it has to be in a notary public and a consul, and it doesn't have to be immediately, but it has to be immediately you come down to port. So let's say, for instance, we loaded water, and then we did not find out that maybe there was water in the fuel that we loaded. Then we come down to port, and oh my God, there is water in this thing, but nobody saw it, nobody said anything. Then boom, it's not too late, but it's too late for a letter of protest where you can just issue down to the master and the master signs and everybody has a binding document. But this, you can take it down to the consul. So that's now the difference. And the sea protest also is really as important and even as really valid as the other one. But in this case here, we might not be able to get the signature of the second party. So when is it advisable to issue note of protest? Whenever during a journey the ship has encountered condition of wind and sea that may result in damage to the cargo. So also, yeah, you might be at the sea and then you encounter cargo, just like Kumar said, and that's why I said it comes with some reservations as well. You're not issuing it to anybody, but you're also issuing it that no, my hands are clean, my hands are not, it's not it might not be a third party, but this is not my own party causing such damage to the cargo. Then where from any cause the ship is damaged or there is a reason to fear that damage may be sustained, or where there is stress of weather, stress of weather, it has not been practicable to adapt, normal precautions in the matter of ventilation and perishable. So this is, I was talking about the bulk carriers. I was talking about, cargoes that move across oceans where there is temperature difference, and when they get across the ports, then the cargoes are no more good for use. So yeah, this case here, oh, what happened, Captain? Explain. This is my note of protest. It is beyond my own responsibilities. It was beyond circumstances, beyond my control that caused it. That when cargo is shipped in such conditions that is likely to suffer deterioration, just like I said, and during the voyage, and in this case, however, the protest will not be effective unless the bill of lading, where endorsed, shows the condition. So the bill of lading has got to show a condition where it was good, or it was well packed, or it was iced, and then it was passing through the warm region, and then you can issue a note of protest. See, I really accepted this thing all night, but I'm not really sure that I'm going to get down there in a good way. Or I came down here and immediately this was beyond my own control. So it indemnifies even your ship owner, it depends, and indemnifies the cargo owner as well. Therefore, if there's any breach, serious breach, just like we said in the other time, of charter party terms committed by the charterer or his agent, or if the consignee fails to sign or discharge the cargo, it's no problem. You just issue a note of process. But also, in all cases of general average, in all cases of general average. Does anybody remember what general average is? I think I was the one that took that that lecture on general average. Lima, November, can you help us? What's general average? Or what do you understand by general average? Captain Caleb, welcome. Captain Caleb here will be able to give us 1 or 2 examples. He even issued a note of protest today, so he's going to try and also enlighten us more on it. Lima, November, can you help us here what you understand by general average, so we know that in every general average we have to issue a note of protest?
Okay, you want me to explain general average for them?
No, I was just asking them, but yes, I can
Okay.
just briefly explain us on general average, and so they can really understand that.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. For general, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Captain Afolabi. General average, for instance, now, if possibly you are on the ship, so I will give you examples, and then the ship is sinking and you need to jettison some cargo to save the ship, you know, so it's something that you call it is a proportional share of any loss, you know, that is as a result of a kind of voluntary sacrifice that you make to save a ship from an emergency. You know, that is what they call general average. There's general average and there's also partial average. So general average is a basic principle of maritime law. And in case of general average, like Captain Afolabi said, you are required to issue a note of protest, you know, declaring a general average. For instance, now you can decide to throw some containers overboard to save the ship. It's part of general average, you know. So from general average, that actually leads you to a principle of salvage in the future. So general average is a form of partial loss. You lost something to save the circumstance. You have to look at general average, their principle. Emergency must be involved. There must be emergency in order to save. If there's no emergency, then it's not general average under the principle of maritime law, you know. And it's also alternatively established that the shareholders, for instance, the ship owner, the shipper, the cargo owner, they have to share for the damages. When you jettison the cargo, it's not only the cargo owner that is going to bear the risks. So it's going to be a general form. That's why they call it general average. The ship owner will bear the risk, the shipper will bear the risk, and everything, you know. So it's a form of voluntary sacrifice to save the ship or cargo from an emergency situation. And the principle, it must be an emergency. So before the general average comes, you have to invoke what we call it the York-Antwerp rules of, I think, 1890 or 1891, if I can remember vividly. So it's very important to know that. I'm not 100% sure of, but it's called the York-Antwerp rule. So thank you very much. I hope this clarifies.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And just like Captain Caleb said, it must be in an emergency. Additionally, it must be an extraordinary act. Thirdly, it must be a reasonable act. So Captain Caleb gave an example of, oh, we want to jettison one cargo just in order to save the ship. If the master takes an irresponsible action by jettisoning 5 or 6 cargo, it is no more a general average. It has lost its it has lost its competency, or it has got eligibility for us to say this case is legible for general average. And the 5th one, it must be when the vessel is in peril, when the vessel is in danger, just like Captain Caleb said, you must be able to think that, yes, this is a general average. And just a summary of what is a general average is just like, oh, we're sailing from Singapore down to Ghana, and the ship is about to sink. And the reason, and if we are able to take one cargo of Mr. A and drop it in the sea, we might be able to save the whole ship and the whole cargo getting to Ghana. But then who pays for cargo of Mr. A? And that is when boom, you issue a note of protest, boom, you declare general average. And the general average, there's a specific people called the general average adjuster. It looks at all these things. It looks at the 5 factors. It looks at factor 1, were you in Peru? Yes, I was in Peru. 2, was it a reasonable action? Yes, it was a reasonable action. 3, was it an extraordinary action? Yes, it was an extraordinary action. And 4, was it for the common good of everyone, or was it just for the common good of just that particular cargo? So for instance, if that particular cargo was on fire and it's not going to affect every other side, if you jettison the cargo, it's no more general average. So yeah, we jettison that cargo just to save every other person. Yes, it was for the common good of everyone. So when we look at all this, yeah, we declare a note of protest, we declare general average, and general average adjuster comes to look at it. So this is the key place where an examiner also tries to ask. There is a situation or there is a maritime law scenario where you find yourself and you need a note of protest. Sir, in general average also we declare a note of protest as well. And that is why it's a legal binding document. Thanks, Captain Keller, for chipping in that. I'll soon pass over to Captain Keller because he's going to shed more light on the protest. He issues protests every day. So protest should be noted as soon as possible. It should be noted as soon as possible, certainly within 24 hours of arrival in port, and in the case of cargo protests, before breaking the bulk. And just like we said, a note of protest is simply a declaration by the master. Their declaration by the master of circumstances beyond his control, which may or may have given rise to loss or damage. So just like incidents of, a vessel is about to sink, it is not beyond, it's really beyond my control. Then I also have to issue a note of protest. I need to drop that cargo right there. And such declaration must be made before notary public, magistrate. So remember, letter of protest, note of protest. But this one now will be made before a notary public, a magistrate, consular office, or any authority. This can be done when you come down, immediately you come down to port as well. So usually statement under oath to be taken from the master and every other members of the crew of this statement. And we have to be supported with appropriate logbooks. So not only logbooks, but we take every evidence. Normally, like on DP vessels, we take any little incidents. I'm very good at taking pictures, or to check the weather situations. So you can also take incidents if you have a CCTV camera. Most of the vessels now are having CCTV camera of how the approaching vessels was coming or how the sea was rough. You can also be taking a barometer pressure. As much evidence as you can be able to gather to exonerate yourself from responsibilities that comes about that gives rise to loss or damage. And at the time of noting protest, the marshal should reserve the right to extend it. So meaning, if the master even sees that, there was even another damage that even still happened, he has the right to still extend this note of protest. And the note of protest are admissible in evidence before legal tribunals. You can use them because legal tribunals, you can use them anywhere, just like the evergreen as well. I'm sure there will be some letter, there will be some some lawyers trying to defend, another lawyers trying to oppose. These are, if there's a note of protest that was being issued, these are cases that we really need to tender. And of course, in many countries, particular continent, and some of the continents, protests are received in evidence as a matter of course, just like I said. And for here in the United Kingdom, they are not accepted as evidence in favor of party making a protest, except both parties really consent. So every country has different ways as which they really accept, but a note of protest is really a legal document that we will use. With that, I'll pass over to Captain Caleb. So it gives us more understanding on. Just give us some scenario of when, please, you use your note of protest as a pilot.
Okay, thank you very much, Captain Afolabi. It's a very, very good one. You have actually said it all. You have hit the nail actually on the head. So you have said absolutely everything. So I believe with what you have said, they should be able to attend most of the questions. Because for those of you guys going for master's classes, so there is high tendency that you will be asked questions regarding general average, note of protest. And then note of protest is very important for you to know the difference between note of protest and letter of protest. So note of protest, you know, is a form of a legal document, you know, which is being taken like an oath. You take it to a notary, you know, that a circumstance beyond the master's control have caused a form of damage, you know, a loss to cargo, or has made the ship not to be able to arrive port as when it is stated, and then it rendered the owners liable for any legal action. And like Captain Afolabi have said, when you are issuing a note of protest, you have to make it within the period of 48 hours when arriving port, which is very, very important. That is a note of protest. And then there are circumstances where you issue note of protest. And but before that, you have to, this note of protest has to be made before a notary public. You know, that is a magistrate within 24 hours of arriving port, like Captain Afolabi have said. And it has to be under, you know, unforeseen circumstance beyond, you know, the master, which makes him to take such situation. So when do you issue note of protest? It's very, very important for you to know when to issue note of protest. First, sometimes in event of weather, you know, when the ship is experiencing bad weather, heavy seas, you know, which might have resulted to damage to cargo. For instance, if you are in bulk carriers, you know, heavy weather results in damage to cargoes. So that is more of an act of God, you know, because it's not intentional, you know, it's not intentional. It's something that has happened, you know, and resulted in damage to that particular cargo. You have taken all precautions as master. So they say it's beyond a reasonable doubt. So meaning you have taken all the precautions necessary, but still it causes damage. So you need to issue a note of protest within 24 hours of arrival port. So the second circumstance, you know, where you issue a note of protest, you can issue note of protest in event of general average, like we have been told, you know, when you jettison some cargo, you know, to try to save the ship, you know, where all the parties involved, you know, you divide the loss. That's what you mean by general average, by every individual involved, the ship owner, the charterer, the carrier, and everything, you know. Another circumstance, again, where you issue a general average is, for instance, you are supposed to discharge cargo, you know, to a certain charter party as per the bill of lading, and you find out that it is not so. So it's not you. So you have to also issue a note of protest there, not a letter of protest. I'll explain to you when to issue a letter of protest. So it's very, very important. Sometimes, again, you issue note of protest when there's demurrage, you know, when you have ship loss and so on. So those are the circumstances where you issued a note of protest. So all those things are beyond, you know, the master's reasonable doubt of the master. So he has to take such action, you know, in order to save the ship. You know, those actions are not being intentional. You should know, like Captain Afolabi has said, it's not intentional. If you do it because of your lack of skill, knowledge, and understanding, then it's no longer a note of protest at that point. So what is a letter of protest? You know, letter of protest is very, very important. For instance, like I told you, Captain, today I issue a letter of protest, you know, to a ship. I issue almost 3 letters of protest. So one of the letter of protest is, we have you claim that your vessel has a design loading limit of 15,000 barrels per hour. And then you are loading beyond 15,000 barrels per hour. So in that situation, I'll give you a note of protest. You know, I come alongside the berths. I've already tied up the ship to SBM, and then I'm ready to start. Shore is ready to start cargo. but the vessel have problem with their valve, which delays starting the cargo. So you give a letter of protest for that particular issue, and then the letter of protest we issue here is we issue letter of protest. One is original copy goes to the vessel. You have a photocopy that goes to the charterer. One goes to the owner, and the other one goes to the ship agent. It's very, very important for you to have that. So another difference is in the note of protest, you have to make an official logbook entry. In letter of protest, you are not required to make an official logbook entry. In note of protest, the master has actually issued me with note of protest that he tendered notice of readiness, that he has arrived at pilot boarding station at 0000, but pilot did not board until 0800 hours, meaning that any delay that incurred. So what I do is just to click for receipt only, because we don't do night berthing. We only do daytime berthing. We can do night on berthing, but no daytime berthing. I don't need to explain to him. He issued me the letter of protest. I will accept it, as letter of protest. So in letter of protest, you don't really attach evidence. In note of protest, you attach evidence like pages of deck logbook to show that the weather was bad. At the end of deck logbook, you have where you record wind force, everything. So if you issue a note of protest that you have adverse weather condition, they find out that the wind force was force 4, force 5, nobody is going to accept that. So you must have evidence. You must present weather reports to show. You must present pictorial evidence, that you have taken all precaution, but it's beyond your reasonable doubt that that thing happened. So you issue, when do you issue letter of protest when you are not satisfied, with what has happened on the ship. Like I said, you are ready, and then either the terminal is not ready or the ship is not ready to take cargo. Another most important thing if you are in tanker trade is if we are loading and you have a ship shore difference. These guys are good at giving a letter of protest for ship shore difference. If terminals like what we have in Nigeria, we have slow loading rate, VLCCs, they can be able to receive 80,000 barrels per hour. And we are loading in at 25,000 barrels, 30,000 barrels. So the issues are letter of protest for slow loading of cargo, So another issue again is you can also issue a letter of protest for delay in custom boarding and everything. So all I need to do is I'll just acknowledge it for receipt only, for receipt only, for receipt only. So in the tanker trade, you have to be very careful if you are trading. This is not for exam purpose, but for Nigerian regulation purpose. So if the ship shore difference is less than 0.2, you issue a letter of protest. But it's beyond 0.5%, you have to issue a note of protest. You understand? You have to issue a note of protest. And the note of protest you issue to the master, and then that will also be sent to DPR and NNPC, where they will have someone who will be physically present at the next discharge port to observe, because the difference is much. So you have to be careful between a letter of protest and the note of protest. So in another situation, again, you have to check through your cargo operation logbook or deck operation logbook to see under which circumstance. But like I said, if you have a suspected cargo damage, you have to jettison some containers to save the vessel. That comes under a note of protest. You understand? And in case of note of protest, the cargo of the letter of protest, you address it either to the master, or you address it either to the mooring master or to the pilot or to the master of the vessel. But in the case of note of protest, you address it to whom it may concern, because you are not, it's not only one party that might be involved. P&I might be involved, different surveyors. So you do it to whom might be concerned. It's very, very important. So letter of protest also doesn't need a witness signature. However, note of protest needs a witness signature. So you must have some sort of witness. And sometimes this note of protest will also be accompanied by letter of protest, pictorial evidence, and everything that you have. So under the letter of protest, is made within 24 hours, but the provision for letter of protest, you can just write for receipt only. The master can decide to receive my letter of protest or not. But the note of protest, the master must declare it within 24 hours of arrival port when that particular incident occur. Again, under the note of protest, like I said, it has to be any matter or any issue, that is beyond your control. For weather, you can't control weather. But for instance, you can control the loading rate. So you might have limits. So they give me letter of protest that we are giving them slow loading rate. I know it's not a problem to me because I know the capacity of our pumps is 20,000 barrels or 25,000 barrels per hour. All I need to do is I'll just write for receipt only, So it's very, very important for you to know that. So if you go to other ships or other ships visit your terminals, other nationals, there are nationals that are good at issuing letter of protest. They can issue you 10, 15, but it's not an issue. It's not going to cause you a bit of issue, So like you can't start issuing letter of protest as a pilot that I went on the ship and the master doesn't have a good attitude. That one you make it in a comment in your, pre-departure days, or I wasn't given a good food. No, it's not like that. It's just like when something that is supposed to happen is not happening. That's where you issue the letter of protest, and the note of protest beyond your reasonable doubt, something you can't control. For instance, general average, weather, cargo damage, you have damage to the hull, when you are on the way. So it's very, very important for you to know that. So I hope this clarify a lot. Captain Afolabi has actually hit the nail on the head. Like the one I got today, I got a letter of protest of slow loading, which is normal. They arrived, NOR was tendered, the bed was not ready, it's normal. And we also issued them our own, It's not like something that is an issue, but it's just a legal requirement that when something happens now, you have something to back up. So when you feel it's time for you to issue a letter of protest, note of protest, please don't be scared. Issue it. It's not a problem. You have a format that is safe. This is master of so vessel, do somely, protest, slow loading. Sometimes they issue a letter of protest for, traces of water found in crude oil cargo, for instance. Traces of water found in crude oil cargo, they issue. So if you are maybe in Nigerian ports now, surveyor will issue letter of protest, master of the vessel will issue you letter of protest. Sometimes you have 3 different surveyors, all of them coming with their letter of protest, So I hope this clarifies. So this is more of the legal aspect of shipping, So thank you very much, Captain.
Thank you very much, Captain Philip. That was the nice talking for the letter of protest and note of protest. Because the reason why I try to bring this is, there being so much confusion. Letter of protest is the same as note of protest, and they only get these answers at the exam of that no, it's wrong, which is
there's a common question being asked. If you have collision, so what will happen if you have collision? It's always asked in oral examination. So what happened if you have collision? So some collision is complicated. It's not beyond your reasonable doubt. It's not something is purely due to your inexperience. You are not taking action as per ROR, or you have a form of failed engine or something has failed. So, but still in event of collision, you are required to issue a note of protest within 24 hours of arrival port with all the evidence. So there are a lot of publications also you can get information. If you go, P&I have published a lot, the Yorkshire law, like I said, the Hague and the Hague-Visby rules and all those things. So it's very important. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Starting with Oman, are you fully aware now? Are you fully enlightened about the difference between note of protest and letter of protest, or you have any questions?
Yes, I understand, and I still have a question.
Okay, please shoot.
Okay, my question is, assuming like in a port in Nigeria, and your ship just arrived, and you want to, because before you arrived, there was some kind of weather, and you fear it might have led to something damage to the cargo. So you want to note a protest. Who do you submit this protest to? Like, I believe you said it's addressed to whom it may concern, but who do you note it to? Who do you send it to?
Come again, you mean the note of protest itself?
Yes, the note of protest. When the master prepares it and sign and everything, who do you send it? Because you made mention of customary, you have to issue it to customary court or something. So are you going to send someone to go and take it to court or something?
Oh, okay.
Okay, I understand Afolabi what he means.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He means the letter, who do you address it? So there's a notary, you have an agent, so the agent can do it on your behalf. Sometimes the notary can come and do it, but it must be done within 24 hours. It's a legal requirement, and you address it to whom it may concern.
Yes, so but it means your agent is going to take it to the court?
Yes, to the notary, yes. Yes, because in some instance, when things like this happen, the master can leave the ship. I've been in ships where we had a man overboard and the master has to go ashore, because the ship is not on the way. You have to understand, the ship is alongside. The ship is not on the way. It's not under any power. And then there's an issue that happened. Most of the times, the master go out to do it. Most of the time, the agent brings a notary to do it.
Okay, so assuming as a master, you now note a protest, you now take it to the court. What do you tell them? You want them to stamp it or to acknowledge or record it or something?
No, it's notary. You understand what notary public is? Notary, they just certify it for you. It's not like it's just acknowledged. If you've been to a notary, they'll just put their seal. For instance, when I was applying for school in the UK then, I sent photocopy of my certificate, but they say it must be sealed and endorsed by a notary public. The only thing is a seal makes it legal. It doesn't mean anything. That's why you have not every lawyer that is a notary public.
Okay, they will just sign or stamp or something.
They will just seal their distance to make it legal.
Their approval.
Yes. I think we need to get a copy of note of protest, Capt. Afolabi, and circulate it within the group, so that they can see how a note of protest is and how a letter of protest is.
So, just like Captain Caleb said, the letter of protest, you can be captain and the ship stamp, and it's fine. But the note of protest itself has it has to carry a notary public stamp, if that makes sense. So there's got to be an endorsement that this paper has been taken to notary public, it has been seen and it has been signed. So it is not something we can just write a letter.
Okay. So can the master copy the charter party and send it to them also?
Yeah, if he wants to send it, he can send it. But what differentiates the letter of protest and the note of protest now is, are you sending a letter if you're sending a letter of protest, you send to whoever and the person signs and you receive, just like Capt. Caleb said, you might send to the receiving party or to the sending party, and both just have it, and some can even sign for receipts only, and you can keep it in the file, or you can send it wherever as required. But when you note of protest, a note of protest has got to pass through the notary first before you can even clarify it to be a note of protest. And wherever it's needed,
is this note of protest, because letter of protest, I have been where they have issued all the time. So I know letter of protest. Is this note of protest that I want to understand better?
Yeah, that's it. Because note of protest is not something that we always go to the notary public to go on. But honestly, the notary public, just Captain Caleb just described the difference. It's me myself, I'm issuing to the captain of MT blah blah blah. That's a letter of protest. But now note of protest is to whom it may concern. I, Captain so was navigating through the narrow channel, and then boom, there was a change of weather, there was a change of wind, and so thing happened, and it was beyond my own control as well. So you state all those things right there, but you're not stating it to anybody. You are stating it to whom it may concern, so that in case it comes out later on, I already issued a note of protest during such situation, or even just like we were saying about general average, when such occurrence happen, and you have to do one or two, so you have to make an extraordinary sacrifice for such. Oh, this is note of protest. I so time this happened, and it was beyond my own control, and I had to do this and do this for the common interest of all. So you will have to carry that notary stamp for a note of protest.
Okay, I understand, sir.
Yeah, it can be a stamp, it can be a seal. It depends on the country or the state where you're doing it from as well. But you understand that notary seal that we're talking about, right? It's just
yes, I can understand.
Yeah, it's just like Captain Caleb. I remember that time I was applying to my COC in UK. They would tell me to scan my discharge. I mean, to photocopy my discharge book and some of my certificates and send to the UK. But they want to see a notary public on it, and I will just have to take it down there to the court, and they just cite the original, cite this one, and okay, now it's valid, it's legal as well.
Okay.
Yeah. SA. Yeah, Syria Alpha, please ask the question.
Okay, sir. I want to ask about the general average. Why you were explaining, sir? You said if when you can jettison some cargo in order to save the other cargo or the vessel. So if a captain assume that, or maybe from his own whatever he has carried out about the safety and contingency plan, then he tried to jettison a cargo in order to save other vessels from the accidents that may occur after. So after jettisoning that cargo, he couldn't save the vessel from that accident. Maybe and the accident still later occur. So what is going to happen? Will they still charge him for the cargo he lost in order to save the cargo, to save the vessel, why he couldn't later save it?
If I understand your question, so for instance, he tries to jettison a cargo in order to save the ship, but yeah, the ship was not saved.
That is correct, sir.
Yeah, I think at that case, yeah, it is no more a loss to one party, so it's a loss to all parties. It's no more loss to one party, it's a loss to all the parties involved, because if the ship is not getting to shore, there is nothing anyone can have any profits, or there's nobody that can think of any profits as well. So that one alone, if you're not able to do the ship sinks and everything, whether total loss or particular loss, it's a loss on but it cannot be termed as a general average. It's a loss to every sea adventure on that vessel. Do you understand me? Oh, I think I've lost in there. Does anybody have any other question about sea protest, letter of protest, and of course, general average? I take it that we kind of understood it today. Well, I'd just like us to go back and try to read on it. It's really an interesting topic, but it's also a confusing one, because protest, note, what is note and letter? And yeah, I think it's kind of a failing question, and that was why it is very important that I bring it up today as well. So, Beatrice, are you still there? Do you understand it? Omar?
Okay, sir, please don't forget to send, Captain Danladi said he's going to send us an example of the note of protest. I think either you or him.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll drop the note of protest.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Captain Caleb, if you have any that you know.
I will check. What I will need to do, they need to give me time. Let me get to office tomorrow. I need to strike out Chevron logo there. Then I'll just send to them.
And you can strike out the ship's name and details.
Yes, I'll strike out the ship's name, my name, and everything and send so that they have a look at it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Omar, November, Beatrice, thanks, Compassion, Kelvin, Mike Alpha, and SA. I think